September 25th, 2007. It was the biggest opening day in entertainment history. Bigger than the premiere of Spider-Man 3. Bigger even than the debut of the final Harry Potter book.
I've been here for what, almost 24 hours now?
What these crowds were eagerly awaiting was the latest edition of Microsoft's best-selling video game.
The wait is over. Halo 3 is here.
Halo 3 had arrived, big time. The total sales in just one day, an unprecedented $170 million. But just months later, that record was topped by yet another video game. Grand Theft Auto 4 raked in a staggering $310 million in its first day.
GTA, baby!
The video game industry is on a winning streak.
Yes, it's time to rock out.
With the promise of even more to come.
By 2010, there'll be 75 million people in this country who are between the ages of 10 and 30. Every one of those 75 million people will have grown up with video games.
The industry wants to keep them all playing whatever they want.
You want to shoot people and carjack them and take their cars, it's an integral part of the game.
And being whoever they want.
I am Brittany Mason, a 26-year-old blonde, buxom blonde shell.
Tonight, CNBC goes inside an entertainment phenomenon. Meet the genius who took the dollhouse into the digital age.
Some people play it kind of as a spreadsheet for life.
And see how this mother of three is making real money playing pretend.
I'm on target to make about $80,000, $85,000 this year.
And why the Fortune 500 wants in on the action.
It's really like a 24/7, auto show that's on all the time.
Now, the CNBC original documentary, Playing to Win, Inside the Video Game Industry, with correspondent Bill Griffith.
It looks like a college campus a week after finals, but don't let the laid-back, chilled-out setting fool you. This is headquarters of the NFL.
Launches it deep to the left.
The Mafia. And Bond.
Who are you?
The name is Bond. James Bond.
Well, at least they're virtual counterparts.
All right, that's fixed.
That's right?
Yeah.
Welcome to Electronic Arts, one of the world's largest video game publishers. In 2007, EA earned $3 billion producing games for all the major game platforms. Creating fantasies here is all about making them seem as real life.
You take the two-dimensional map and add that on, and you get your VJ.
In EA's Tiger Woods PGA Pro Tour, it's par for the course.
Callaway clubs or Cobra drivers or Nike putters, you're able to actually pick those brands up, put them on your golfer, and so not only does your golfer look how you want him to look, he's playing with the equipment that you're used to playing, and it really makes you feel like you're in the game.
I think it's a 7-iron.
If God is in the details, then heaven might look something like EA.
We come up with a list of sounds that we think we're going to need, and then we set about going out and recording these things. Right now, I've selected Scottish birds, because this is a Scottish course, and so these are some bird tweets. The flag flapping, ball going in the cup. And that's the big payoff right there.
For their James Bond title, From Russia with Love, EA spared no expense to get the right guy to play 007, Sean Connery himself.
May I help you? A dry martini. Shaken, not stout.
We had some lines in there that were a little bit more modern, and he'd say, I don't even know this line. So, he dialed us into the 60s. He dialed us into Bond. We could have made the game, but it wouldn't have been near as good.
Sit down if you want.
Bringing Hollywood showmanship to video games has been part of EA's style since the very beginning.
That was a complete bomb. They were really desperate.
That's not just any gamer traveling down memory lane. That is Trip Hawkins, the founder of Electronic Arts. Even as a kid in the pre-Pong years, Hawkins was a game player.
I'd want to play games with my friends, but they would want to watch television. And when I first heard about computers, I thought, aha, if we put the game in the computer, we can actually make it look and feel like television, but then it'll be a truly interactive experience where you're really there and you're part of the action.
The only problem was it was the 1970s, and Hawkins had to wait until computers caught up with his ideas for them.
And I thought, okay, well, how many years is it going to take before there's enough computers in the home that I can make the games that I want to make? And I decided that if I waited until 1982, that would be long enough. And that was 7 years away.
He used the time wisely, working as director of product marketing at a new company called Apple. Hawkins carefully observed everything, especially the software designers.
These guys are very ingenious prima donnas, pretty much just like the divas that run around Hollywood. So why not have a company that's really themed around doing a better job of taking care of them and nurturing them, and in fact kind of making them into brands.
That's exactly what he did when he left Apple to start EA. Inspired by the music business, Hawkins packaged his designers' games with covers that looked like record albums. They sold well, but the star power of game designers never shined as bright as, say, Mick Jagger's. Hawkins thought, why not get a real celebrity to star in a game? And what celebrities could be bigger than pro athletes?
And I thought we could do one-on-one basketball, and we can draw 2 basketball players. And then it was just obvious to me immediately it had to be Dr. J and Larry Bird.
Released in 1983, Dr. J and Larry Bird Go One-on-One was a smash. But what Hawkins really wanted was a full team sport, a football game featuring coach and commentator John Madden. But at the time, having 11 players on each team like a real game was technically impossible. Hawkins, however, wouldn't give up on the idea.
It took 4 years, and it became known in the company as Trip's Folly. And at one point, the auditors had to come personally to see me to explain that, I'm sorry, but we have to write this off because it's obviously not an asset. It's obviously just an expense that you are never going to recoup.
He's laughing because Trip's Folly helped make EA the first third-party software publisher to earn $1 billion a year. With a new edition released annually, John Madden's NFL has remained at the top of the video game bestseller charts. After becoming the MVP of software, Hawkins turned his attention to what he hoped would be his next big breakthrough. He spearheaded the move in the middle 90s to create a standard for video game systems.
So let's get rid of all this Nintendo and Sony and incompatibility. Let's create one single standard. It'll be called the 3DO standard.
With Hawkins licensing the hardware technology to Panasonic, the 3DO console made its debut in 1993.
And it was fantastic. Amazing 3D graphics, stuff you're not going to get for another couple years till the original PlayStation comes around, but nobody wants it.
Part of the problem was the price. At $700, the 3DO was the most expensive game console ever.
We were just hoping that because of all the other features that it had, it would look really more like a hi-fi purchase or a TV or a VCR. So that was one of the lessons learned, is that, no, it's going to be viewed as a game system, it's going to be judged as a game system, and it's too expensive for a game system, even with all the whizzy new capabilities.
As the console wars raged on, game designers faced a never-ending battle of their own.
It's somewhat inevitable that at the end of the project, people end up coming in on weekends, working late hours.
We have a very flexible work environment, and if you're a new Wild Tangent employee, we tell you can work any 80 hours a week you like.
I lived away from home for almost 3 months, helping get the game done in the final crunch stage. So I didn't see my friends, my family for a while, although I was allowed some conjugal visits.
We're still making tweaks on the models, but we've got to nail that in the next few weeks if we're going to stay on track.
Most of the crunch time is spent making everything perfect, eliminating the bugs, those errors that can ruin gameplay and ultimately game sales.
It's crises every day. You're not putting a spacecraft in space, but you are like figuring out why Kim Possible is walking through walls on level 7. And if you're doing it right and you're working together, we find it kind of thrilling.
Oh, really? In 2004, the fiancé of an EA programmer made news when she reported that her husband was required to work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Not long after, programmers and graphic artists at EA sued the company for unpaid overtime. EA eventually paid out a total of $30 million in settlements and changed its overtime policies. Today, at Trip Hawkins' new game company, Digital Chocolate, software designers get the star treatment.
I share the ownership with everyone. If you keep advancing, you'll just keep getting more stock options, because that's fair.
Coming up, the video game industry under attack.
It's just the worst kind of message to kids.
Video game violence, next, as Playing to Win continues. Playing to Win, inside the video game industry continues.
A little over 100 years ago, in one of the first movies ever made, a cowboy aimed his six-shooter right at the audience and fired away point blank. Obviously, violence in the media is nothing new. But video games are different. Their audiences can shoot back, and that gets a lot of people up in arms.
When you ask people to come up with just a word that comes to mind when you mention video games, almost all the time it's violence. And yet, if all we did was produce violent entertainment, we wouldn't be on the verge of becoming the second largest entertainment industry in the world.
Even in the earliest days of Atari,
gets aggressive second round.
There was mayhem and destruction in video games up to a point.
We actually had a rule that sounds very quaint right now, so that you could blow up a tank, you could blow up an airplane, but that you couldn't harm a humanoid figure. And we stuck to it.
That rule was broken in 1976 when one of Atari's competitors brought out Death Race.
And the object of the game was to drive over pedestrians for points. Now, it sounds horrible and terrifying. The graphics of this is a couple years after Pong. Okay, you got blocks, stick figures. The outcry over this game led to it being pulled off of locations. It led to people not buying it.
By the 90s, better graphics led to more realistic blood and guts. And the arcade hit Mortal Kombat.
He takes out your head and your spine's connected.
Before long, both Nintendo and Sega announced plans to bring the game's trademark skull-crushing and spine-ripping into homes everywhere. But privately, the folks who brought the world Mario wondered if they could really get that down and dirty.
Our standards were not to allow that blood, and we ended up insisting that our licensee take out the blood, and I think we changed the blood from red to green, something like that. Sega, meanwhile, said, hey, we got the real stuff, the real red blood.
Whatever the color, Mortal Kombat's blood got Sega and Nintendo into real trouble.
That I agree
that everything that we've done has not been perfect. As a matter of fact,
the game prompted Senator Joseph Lieberman of Connecticut to hold hearings in 1993 on video game violence and its effects on children.
I know that one place parents want us to draw the line is with violence in video games.
This morning, the Software Publishers Association...
With the government breathing down its neck, the industry decided to police itself, announcing the formation of the Entertainment Software Association and a game rating system.
We provide empowering information that allows consumers to make informed choices. And we do it more comprehensively than any other entertainment industry does in terms of providing both content information and age guidance right on the package.
Would you...
But the same week the hearings began, video game gore and violence were raised to new levels with the debut of Doom, the sci-fi horror title that established the first-person shooter genre. Players see everything through the eyes of the main character, a combat-hardened Marine who uses everything from brass knuckles to rocket launchers in a blood-soaked battle against evil creatures from hell. For hardcore gamers, Doom was love at first kill. But after the 1999 Columbine High School massacre, video game critics called it a training course in murder.
We found out that those boys were big Doom players, and they said that their massacre at their high school would be like a level of Doom. And people got very upset from that.
It was the scapegoat. You know who else liked to play violent video games called Doom? Most of America. Most of the children in America, and yet they did not go crazy and shoot people.
USC professor Peter Vorderer specializes in the psychology of entertainment. He's one of the experts who feel that video games could push children with violent impulses to act on their feelings.
If that sort of behavior is encouraged by the game, and if somebody's ready to show that sort of behavior, then the impact is quite likely, yes.
Not so, argues former Entertainment Software Association President Doug Lowenstein.
If you look at the most independent and objective research out there, which has been done by governments, which has been done by other organizations around the world, you find a great deal of skepticism that there is any compelling research that links playing violent games to aggressive behavior.
But even industry veterans wonder about the effects of playing violent video games.
After I've played a couple hours of a driving game, a racing game, and I get in my own car, I drive more aggressively. After I've played a couple hours of a violent game, I feel more hostile towards people.
The issue was raised again in 2003 when an 18-year-old named Devin Moore went on a rampage in an Alabama police station, killing 2 police officers and a dispatcher. After he was captured, Moore reportedly said, quote, "Life is like a video game. Everyone's got to die sometime," end quote. Convicted in 2005, Moore, it turned out, had been playing one game day and night for months, the bestseller Grand Theft Auto.
You want to shoot people and carjack them and take their cars, it's an integral part of the game. You're playing a criminal. Is it a reprehensible game in a lot of ways? Yeah. Would I ever let my kid play it? No. But my kid is going to play it. He is.
How can he be so sure? Well, according to a recent survey, 7 out of 10 children report playing M-rated games. 45% have purchased adult-rated titles despite store policies prohibiting sales to minors.
Yes, it is. Grand Theft Auto. Step right up.
How about a little coffee?
And more than a few kids viewed this scene in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, which prompted Senator Hillary Clinton to call for a federal investigation.
The ability of our children to access pornographic and violent material on an M-rated video game is spiraling out of control.
In 2005, Senators Clinton and Lieberman introduced the Family Entertainment Protection Act to prevent the sale of mature and adults-only games to minors. Some states have instituted similar laws, but the Entertainment Software Association has fought successfully to get many of those laws overturned as unconstitutional.
Our view is government has no business getting involved in regulating artistic expression and creative freedom. And these laws that seek to ban sales of games based on their content are a fundamental abridgment of the First Amendment.
Just tell your kid you don't want Grand Theft Auto in the house. That's enough. They understand that even though they're going to go and they're going to play it at 15 different friends' houses, my parents don't want it in the house. That's a very powerful message.
Ready? Go grab it.
Of course, not all kids play video games filled with devastation and destruction. This little guy created a game that's different and became a hero for it.
Yay, sword!
Coming up, when a kid's life isn't all fun and games.
You can't give up.
Video games that can save lives. Next, when Playing to Win continues. Playing to Win, inside the video game industry, continues.
This is Dance Dance Revolution, a video game that's part disco, part exercise machine. And there's Brain Age, a personal trainer for your brain with puzzles, memory tests, and math problems.
See, it really does require concentration. Blue, yellow, blue, red.
Yes, believe it or not, there are video games that are actually good for you.
Hard, push everything you've got. Come on, go, you can do it. Push. You almost there, you're there. Yes, excellent.
We're at the University of Maryland for the annual Games for Health Conference, a meeting of minds of game developers and healthcare professionals.
You give her sort of an idea. You know, I'm not feeling so great today, so she will adjust the workout based on that.
Our game is called Care Connections, and it's a CNH training program to help people learn how to care for residents in nursing homes.
This is the interactive trauma trainer. We try to make a surgical decision-making training tool, and the patient himself will, do well or not so well depending on which decisions you make.
They're called serious games. Games that educate as well as entertain. It's a genre made famous by America's Army, the video game from the U.S. Army that started as a recruiting tool and became one of the most popular games for PCs, and not just with PFCs.
In today's field training, you will learn the basic first aid skills that can save your buddy's life.
A mom credited the game with saving her son's life. Her youngest son actually was able to put into practice the basics, ABCs of life-saving, to save his older brother when an accident happened in the house.
Other conference presenters are equally proud of their work. LucasArts software designer Eric Johnson created some of the Indiana Jones video games. Today, he's here to talk about something else. A video game designed for young victims of cancer.
This entire project was facilitated, of course, by Make-A-Wish. That was where...
Make-A-Wish has a very simple mission. We fulfill the wishes of children with life-threatening illnesses between the ages of 2.5 and 18. That's it.
Come here, Sheriff. Sheriff.
But Make-A-Wish had never gotten a wish quite like 8-year-old Ben Duskin's. Diagnosed with leukemia, Ben had gone through months of chemotherapy and was finally in remission when he made his wish.
Ben's wish was to make a video game and send it back into the treatment center for the kids who are still there.
All right, good job.
Okay, let's go back.
I just wanted them to learn what's going through their body and what the medicine is doing.
Choosing your target for attack.
Every Tuesday we went to LucasArts and we worked for about 2 hours saying, okay, what should we do here? So he got ideas and I got ideas. Cool.
Yep, the voices.
But channeling Ben's ideas for a game about cancer wasn't always child's play.
Building fun is difficult, and when you try to build fun where the antagonist is cancer, that's almost impossible. I don't think that it could have been done if Ben had not been so mature and articulate.
After 6 months of work, Ben and Eric finally had a game.
Ready? Go grab it.
The game is about you're a little person on a hoverboard who shoots cancer cells.
Players also collect shields to battle monsters.
This monster is guarding the barf shield, and his name is Robarf.
Ben's way of representing chemo side effects like hair loss and nausea.
The robot is throwing giant green globes of barf, and it slows you down.
The object of his game? Put the cancer in remission.
Sounds better. All right, should we,
Yay, sword!
Yeah, the sword's better.
Underlying the game is Ben's optimism. No player ever dies. The reason?
You can't give up in cancer. If you just give up, you won't stand a chance.
That was quick.
Maybe you should make it extra hard.
Yeah. In 2004, Make-A-Wish made Ben's game available as a free download on its website. And his wish became a gift to young cancer patients everywhere, including the kids at this treatment center in San Francisco.
It's a good game because it's kind of like you're fighting your own cancer cells off. I just don't feel good every time I get knocked down with chemo or that stuff, and it feels good to blast them away.
I feel really good that actually people are playing it and actually liking it.
Yeah, you want some of this?
And people around the world are playing it. Ben's game has been downloaded from the Make-A-Wish website over 200,000 times and is now available in 9 languages.
Coming up, virtual worlds get real and really popular.
A lot of people have always wanted to be somebody else. And you can create whoever it is that you want to be there.
That's next, as Playing to Win inside the video game industry continues. Playing to Win inside the video game industry continues.
Whether it was Barbie or G.I. Joe, girls and boys have always played with some sort of doll. But in the past few years, they've been putting them aside for a video game, one that grown-ups love too. In fact, they've made it one of the best-selling games of all time, The Sims.
The Sims is really kind of a, in some sense, a dollhouse come to life.
Will Wright, the creator of The Sims, has been called one of the most important people in gaming, entertainment, and technology.
Will Wright is Albert Einstein with a sense of humor, and that's part of what makes him good. And what he really likes is to see how things work and to tinker with things.
I always liked constructing things as a kid. I spent a lot of time building models. And when I started learning to program computers, I realized that computer was just a different way to build models. I could build models that actually had behavior and came to life.
Before bringing The Sims to life, Wright invented its predecessor, SimCity. A game which, as its name suggests, lets players design and build a city. He got the idea for it while working on a conventional action game.
Which was kind of an arcade helicopter game where you were flying around bombing these factories and islands. I had to create this world of islands and roads and little buildings, and I was basically having more fun building the world than I was bombing it. Actor certified.
But he didn't have that much fun when he tried selling SimCity to software publishers.
They said, okay, now, how do you win? How do you lose? And there was this kind of struggle because they expected there to be an end to the game.
The game sat on the shelf for several years until Wright formed his own publishing company, Maxis.
I'm putting in some industries right now.
I'm going to put a school in.
Let's have a new map.
Released in 1989, SimCity became such a hit that it spawned dozens of spin-offs, including The Sims, a game that allows players to create virtual human beings and manage their virtual lives.
Some people play it kind of as a spreadsheet for life. They kind of play out little scenarios, what's going to happen if me and my boyfriend go over and do this.
But here's another scenario. What would happen if instead of a virtual dollhouse, you could play with an entire virtual world and be anybody you wanted to be in that world?
How about a backflip?
Wait a minute. That's my favorite one.
Welcome to Second Life, an interactive 3D digital community that exists only online at the Second Life website. Everything in this virtual world is imagined, created, and owned by its players.
The thing that is so different about what we're doing is that unlike a game, it is a world in which everything is changeable and can be created by you and is owned by you. So this is a very different thing.
Philip Rosedale is chairman of Linden Labs, the San Francisco company that launched Second Life in 2003.
Second Life is a lot like the real world, but a little bit better in a few simple but very compelling ways. You know, we're free to do things there that in the real world we're not. We can begin again in a way that in the real world we can't. We have ability, as creative people, we have an ability to make things that in the real world we just don't generally have the access to the tools or, you know, the costs or the people to build them in.
In Second Life, as in many online games, you create a digital alter ego known as an avatar.
What have you always wanted to do? Well, a lot of people have always wanted to be somebody else. And you can create whoever it is that you want to be there. It's your fresh start.
Put it in the backpack. Colby, grab a snack, sweetheart.
For 37-year-old father of 5 David Peck,
get your homework.
Second Life is more than a fresh start. It's a total 180.
Xander, you go first, then Brendan. In the real world, I am an insurance broker. Coach 2 soccer teams, on the school board, men's club for the church, yeah, the whole thing.
But when Peck sits down at his computer and logs on to Second Life,
I am Brittany Mason, a 26-year-old blonde, buxom blonde shell.
Peck's pick for himself is not so much about gender bending as it is common sense. While he's an insurance broker, he has a sideline business in Second Life as a consultant. Peck shows companies the benefits of Second Life as a marketing tool. For Peck, that requires a brave new kind of networking.
If I went into a virtual world as myself, you probably wouldn't give me the time of day, I hate to say. The pretty people, blonde, young ladies get all the attention. It's marketing. I want to market myself and I want to make connections. It's a social networking platform that lets me make connections.
And with 10 million registered users, there's a lot of potential connections to be made in Second Life.
Yep, this is somebody named Laz. We'll say hi. I'm talking to people in Guildford, England. I'm talking to people in Guam, Australia.
But it all comes with a price.
Oh, here's bathing suits.
To be well thought of in this virtual world, players must spend real money to buy things in it.
If you look at a day in Second Life, you see about $1 million US equivalent change hands between people in the virtual world. About $1 million a day in goods and services being sold.
He's not talking monopoly money. Second Lifers are using real cash to buy virtual items that only exist in cyberspace.
She knows all the cool shops. No point in walking. But I like the pantsuit.
Here's how it works.
1,000 lindens? Yeah.
Linden dollar is the name of the currency that's used to make small transactions, microtransactions, if you will, inside Second Life. What's unique about this currency is that you can take US dollars or your own currency and you can convert them to Linden dollars, buy things in the world or possibly sell things, and then take those Linden dollars and convert them back into currency again.
Just like kids buy clothes for their dolls, Second Lifers buy wardrobes for their avatars.
So we're going to buy this, we're going to right-click.
David Peck, for instance, spends $400 real a year on new clothes for his alter ego, Brittany.
So then here come the pants. I'm going to take off my jacket. I like it. Probably couldn't pull it off in real life.
But his wife isn't complaining, not with all the extra money he's making from Second Life.
It's a hobby that pays. Pays very well. Hopefully I'll finish the year over $30,000.
And Peck is not alone in profiting from Second Life.
The core engine that drives Second Life is entrepreneurial and creative success at the level of individuals. There are literally hundreds of thousands of people in there creating things, and the ability for some of them, for example, to create businesses around those things is what drives the economic and the growth engine of Second Life.
Well, since I was little, I've always wanted to be a fashion designer. I wanted to be a model. I wanted to be a business owner.
Second Life let Carol Higgins do just that. In 2006, this mother of 3 quit her job and started designing her own line of clothes at a virtual shop in Second Life's virtual Paris. People in the real France loved her clothes and made Higgins a virtual millionaire.
In Second Life, I can have a couple of mansions, property on the beach, and, and an inventory full of clothing items that I would never have in real life.
Actually, she's doing very well in real life because of Second Life.
In real life, I think I was maxing out at about $35,000 a year, and now I'm on target to make about $80,000, $85,000 this year.
But in virtual worlds, as in real life, money isn't everything.
I honestly think that if my friends started playing World of Warcraft, they'd have a boyfriend already.
This woman speaks from experience. A few years ago, Sarah Eagle was at home in Philadelphia playing the online fantasy game Asheron's Call when her avatar suddenly became a damsel in distress. But among the thousands of other players also online in the game was Chris Lai in Seattle.
Someone was yelling for help that, oh, I'm trapped in the Dungeons and Shadows, I'm lost, I don't know how to get out, and I'm probably going to die if nobody comes down and helps me out.
He was there about 10 minutes later, and he saved me.
Sarah and Chris started talking and kept talking over the next several weeks.
Oh, I wonder what kind of bird that is.
It wasn't long before she said something like, oh, well, if you're not doing anything, in December, why don't you come out and visit me? And I was like, sure, what the heck?
They had such a great time that Sarah decided to move to Seattle to be closer to Chris. It wasn't long before wedding bells rang.
My Prince Charming.
Oh, God, don't use that. Incoming Fire Lord.
And they've continued to game on happily ever after, playing the online hit, World of Warcraft.
Oh, I crashed.
Coming up, visions from the visionaries.
It's only really now that we're kind of reaching the zenith of this video game culture. And so we are living in the video game world now.
New worlds to conquer, next, as Playing to Win inside the video game industry continues. Playing to Win inside the video game industry continues.
What the video game industry demands more than anything else these days is more money, especially with production budgets reaching $10 million and above for a single title.
You're getting into Hollywood realms of financing. It's even worse than Hollywood in the sense that you don't get the second and the third and the fourth bite at the apple. You don't have the cable sale, the DVD sale, the foreign sale, the TV sale.
But one extra slice of revenue that has come to the video game industry is in-game advertising. Mitch Davis is the founder of Massive Incorporated, the leading company in the field.
We do billboards, posters, and the typical type of outdoor advertising that you see within the virtual world.
Consumers have been raising their hand for years for authenticity. If you can think of how bizarre it would be to watch NASCAR and not see a logo on a car, it wouldn't be real.
For advertisers, it's an opportunity to reach an elusive audience.
Men 18 to 34 had stopped watching television and moved increasingly to video games. Now they're playing games 2 hours a night. That's 4 times as much as they're watching television. So if you're Coke or McDonald's or one of the big movie companies and so forth, then you need to be in video games.
Companies like Coke are also advertising in virtual worlds like Second Life. Some Fortune 500 companies are buying up land in Second Life to create corporate islands. Playgrounds, if you will, for avatars to spend time with their products or brands. Nissan, in fact, gave away free virtual Sentras to Second Lifers who visited the car company's island.
We're not buying advertising per se. We're creating an experience for that's playful, that's fun, but still communicates, our key product features, our key product attributes. So if you think about it, it's really like a 24/7, auto show that's on all the time that people are able to look over and go, hey, there's a really cool new Sentra.
And they're able to play with it. And the cost for Nissan? Virtually peanuts.
And we got an hour with your avatar. Could you imagine how much an hour would have cost me to buy under traditional media? Quite a bit.
Marketing and advertising in virtual worlds and in video games are signs that the game industry is becoming more mainstream. To Sims creator Will Wright, moving beyond the traditional guy gamers who play all the time is the future of the business.
We've been catering to a hardcore group for the most part over the life of this industry, and those people, you know, were expecting the games to get deeper and deeper, and it was a 10-hour experience, then it was a 20-hour experience, then 40 hours. But I think that as we hit the mass market, we're getting a lot of more casual players coming into the market. They want something that they can pick up and play for 10 minutes, 20 minutes at a time, put down, pick up again later. Games need to become a little bit more flexible in terms of the type of players that they entertain.
Wright believes one of the solutions is allowing players to build their own fantasy game worlds, which is exactly the premise behind his newest game.
Spore enables you to play in your world, create your own world, create a species, and get them to a point where they leave their planet. And then once you leave your planet, you connect to the internet of a universe of other planets created in the exact same way, and you get to go explore other people's planets.
Players love making this stuff, and we give them powerful enough tools. You know, to them, that's as enjoyable as the game. And if we can basically give the players that role, they become co-developers with us.
In the game industry's ideal world, everybody would have a video game device. The truth is, that world is already at our fingertips.
The suitability of the cell phone as a video game deployment platform is just spectacular. And as the screen technologies increase, and the memories and the hardware in those things increase, that's going to be a dominant form of video game delivery, because it's with you all the time.
The founder of Electronic Arts, Trip Hawkins, is a firm believer in mobile gaming's potential. He formed his new company, Digital Chocolate, in 2003 to develop software for cell phones. The ongoing challenge for Hawkins is convincing phone companies to move beyond tried and true games.
They seem to think that, well, hey, you know, Pac-Man was created 30 years ago, and that may as well be the best thing ever for your mobile phone. And I'm thinking, well, how could that possibly? That's a little bit like saying Gone with the Wind is going to be the best thing ever that you're going to see on a DVD.
Hawkins' company has developed technology that allows cell phone gamers to not only play solo, but also to compete against each other.
We think of it as a first-rate platform that's a completely new kind of platform, and you have to look for what's unique and different about it.
So far, one of the most unique things about mobile gaming is who's playing. Women. And they're not just playing on cell phones. According to the Entertainment Software Association, more adult women play video games than boys 17 and under. And while the game industry itself is still male-dominated, there are exceptions, like Toby Solnier. After developing over 60 games, Solnier decided in 2005 to start her own development company in upstate New York. Within a year, she had 35 employees and 4 titles in the works for Nintendo. And the secret of her success? It's a game.
So in the same way that, you know, people working in the company are working on making a game, I like working on making the company and trying to solve all those problems and pull it together. And that's really what I'm focused on creating. And I get just as much excitement out of doing that as you would get out of making a game. If you're like that, then this is a great industry, because there's always challenge out there.
And always dreamers, inventors, and hustlers to overcome those challenges. And as industry insiders see it, the biggest challenge facing them is to keep moving forward.
We tend to consider games as these things that you start and finish, and there's a win and lose, and some backstory that you come into with, and you have a character, whatever. I think, you know, there are a much larger set of experiences that would entertain you interactively that maybe we're just scratching the surface of.
The appeal and the potential for video games as a medium is almost limitless. And now it's up to the imagination and guts of companies and designers to to really draw us in further.
People aren't going to buy the game because it looks better. All games are going to look great. So how do you differentiate? By story, by character, by gameplay, by a variety of other things. Make the art form more appealing to a broader number of people. And I think we're headed that way.
Indeed, home to CNBC original production that takes you inside the exploding world of video games. It's not just child's play anymore. Playing to win. Buy the